Here on Boston Common. It's April 18th, 2026. Across from the Thinking Cup coffee place, and Santa Claus is apparently a place where they do realty, but it's like an angry Santa. There's a bunch of interesting stores around here. Anyway, this is like a little bit about the Tower of Babel in the book of Genesis. There was a tower. People were building in a tower to heaven. You can imagine people trying to get into the kingdom of heaven, and they were all speaking one language. And the tower got so high that God said, you know what, if they keep doing this, they're going to be able to do whatever they want. So he smashed the tower and then scattered them to the ends of the earth. Okay, so now I'm going to take that concept and apply it to the greatest commandment. So if you think about the greatest commandment, it is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Somebody asks Jesus what the greatest commandment is, and the answer is love the Lord with all your mind, heart, soul, and strength. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. So if you think about that as a tower, like if you imagine like the text of that, you have the first part with the mind, heart, soul, and strength. Strength does not appear in Matthew. It does appear in Mark and Luke. And then at the bottom is love your neighbor as yourself. So love your neighbor as yourself is actually the base of the tower. If you just look at the text, if you open up any of those three sections of the Bible, of Matthew, Mark, or Luke, and you just read the verses, love your neighbor as yourself is the base, and from that sprouts up like weeds, like overgrowth, like birds filling a tree, like a tree growing. From that sprouts up, love the Lord with all your mind, heart, and soul in Matthew. And then from that sprouts up, love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength in Mark and Luke. If you can imagine an inverted pyramid with the apex down at the bottom, love your neighbor as yourself. And then the triangle comes up, three things. Love the Lord with all your mind, heart, and soul. That's in Matthew. And then the base of the triangle is four things. Love the Lord with all your mind, heart, soul, and strength. So what has happened is it's something simple. Love your neighbor as yourself, which is in essence all you needed to know, becomes amplified, and it gets you thinking. It gets you saying, well, what does it mean to love the Lord with all my mind, heart, and soul, and what does it mean to do it with strength? And why was strength only included in Mark and Luke and not Matthew? And you have to start like Martha, the sister of Mary, who has many things on her mind when she invites Jesus to her house. She has many things on her mind. Like the crown of thorns on the cross, the top of the cross, there's many thorns. And her sister Mary is instead treating Jesus like a neighbor. She is at his feet. She is near him. She is beside him. She is near him at his feet, listening to him. She is loving Jesus like a neighbor, not having all these other things on her mind, heart, mind, soul, and strength. So she is the base of the cross, one nail, rather than all of the thorns. And if you think about all of the thorns at the top of the cross, those are many things. That is what Martha is occupied by. And then you have the two nails on either side, symmetrical for Jesus' hands. Those are like neighbors. So you have love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. The first part of the greatest commandment. And then love your neighbor as yourself. Your neighbor, the two nails, and then two nails become one at the bottom of the cross. Love your neighbor. Neighbor becomes self. And so that's the essence of empathy, of internalizing. If you think about the yin-yang symbol, you have two sides. One's black, one's white. The black has a small white circle in it. The white has a small black circle in it. Those are like neighbors. The small black circle is the neighbor who is so important to the small white circle that it lives all in blackness. And the small white circle is so important to the small black circle that the small black circle lives all in whiteness. It's like they're each fish swimming in water that is only about the other person. And you can view either side as like a baptism, like there's color on one of them and they go into the water of the other person. Like it's like the eye of the beloved. If you look at the yin-yang symbol, like either person is reflected in the eye of their beloved, which is eyes are watery, they're moist. And in that eye, anything that would be perceived as a flaw just dissipates and drifts away. It's like you are altogether beautiful, my darling, there is no flaw in you. That's Song of Songs 4:7. And that's the essence of loving someone totally, of unconditional love. Love your neighbor as yourself. And so the yin yang symbol is on that level, like lovers reflected in one another's eyes, and the purification that happens when you view someone with love, as opposed to viewing them with judgment, or viewing them as an object that you can manipulate or use or take advantage of, or anything like that. So love your neighbor as yourself. Look at the text. The love your neighbor as yourself is at the bottom of the greatest commandment. From that sprouts up, like weeds, like overgrowth, like birds, like a tree blooming up and then becoming populated with birds. You get the love the Lord with all your mind, heart, soul, and sometimes strength. So you have confused language, as there was in the Tower of Babel in Genesis. The confusion of, well, why is strength omitted in Matthew but not in Mark and Luke? And what does it really mean, all your heart, mind, soul, and strength? Like, what do those things actually mean, when it's just very, very simple? Neighbor as self, neighbor being like a baby, but it's very explicitly defined in the Good Samaritan. Jesus tells the Good Samaritan parable because someone asks him, who is my neighbor? Because they noticed, hey, wait a minute, he didn't say love everybody as yourself. He said love your neighbor as yourself. And in that parable, at the end, it is concluded that the neighbor is the one who shows you mercy. In other words, if you look at the yin yang, the neighbor is the one who loves you as themselves. So you have a web of people, all of whom have the other person much more top of mind. If you think about the yin yang symbol, there's that small white circle. That's how much the person's thinking about themselves, and they're otherwise immersed in the darkness of their lover. They're thinking all about them. And then you have the small white circle, small black circle, and the darkness and the lightness of their lover. In the Song of Songs, the female lover says, do not stare at me because I am dark, because I have been darkened by the sun. That's the dark circle. They stare at one another through the lattice. She says, look at my lover staring at me through the lattice. They are neighbors. That is the yin yang symbol with the wavy line. That's the lattice. They are like one another's brains and hearts, like the sun and the moon, all of those kinds of things. They love one another as themselves, and that's the basis. The Tower of Babel, the fundamental building block, is loving neighbor as yourself. As I've mentioned before, the narrow gate through which we are to enter is the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept, which he does on behalf of the grief of Mary, Martha, and others who are grieving because Mary and Martha's brother Lazarus has died. He weeps on behalf of other people. He weeps on behalf of other people. So you think about the yin yang symbol. Jesus sees the grief of other people, sees Lazarus dead, and then he internalizes it and just becomes overcome with it, and he weeps. And that grief empowers him to make the changes, to resurrect Lazarus for them and heal the suffering that they're all going through. That's the basic idea of Tower of Babel, Greatest Commandment, Yin Yang, and lots of other stuff. Lots more to say on this, but it's a long video already, so I'm going to stop.